with as much focus and intensity as possible. You need to play proper League of Legends. If you're bringing a VOD in which that you're not playing proper League of Legends, and I say, okay, this is going on in your gameplay, and then you say, yeah, usually I do ping my teammates, or usually I do gather information, or usually I do this game I was just out of
Summoner's Rift.
What are we talking about, right? Because I see clear issues in your gameplay. So if you're bringing a VOD like this, then we need to then figure out what's the underlying problem, and then I figured out the underlying problem. Yeah, usually I do that. All right, then we can't get much value from that. So, or you have to understand that this is your like average game, right? If you are normally not playing like that, and it's like normally an outline, and you can't stop to play on intensity, then we can talk about that, and we can figure out how do we do intensity. Get to the underlying issue. I do not want to start with painkillers when I fix the underlying issue with you. That's how we do it, right? That's the goal of these coaches. So a really good way to do that is like an average Joe game, okay? Bringing a game that just shows you skeleton, doesn't matter. Games that mistakes that you do. If you usually play on autopilot, bring a game where you usually play on autopilot, you can get to the depths of it. So in the ideal world, you either bring one of these, or you bring one of these, your average game, and then we can figure out what the problems are, and find but you can also potentially have a review where you were confused about. If you can't really resolve the book yourself, so you think like, I don't really understand what I should have done in this specific situation. We as coaches can shed some lights on your board, and we can learn new concepts of the game. This is usually a good thing to do when you're like plateau. If you're plateau, this is a good way to go about it. Because you're like, I don't really understand how to get to the next level, and then we can teach you new concepts about the game. So, we ideally prefer you to have a ranked solo queue. So why is solo queue game a ranked game for normals? It's just a lot more competitive, and the social average game is a lot better. And why preferably no duo queue? Well, okay, so if you really want to play duo queue, I'm not gonna say, okay, that's not how it works. If you learn a specific set of skills that you're playing solo, and I can see it in your gameplay, I'll snip it out. If you're looking or base partner and not with them. It's just a really different way of playing the game. Very different, and generally not good for you in the long term. So I don't want to go too deep on that because it's coaching. So we're just going to do if you have any questions about that, then we that's fine. So we also want you to bring in a game that you have a chance to get at least 30 games played. A few weeks ago I did a session with a Syndra player. I'm the Syndra guy, yeah. And that guy had 9 games on Syndra, right? And then I asked him, did you watch the guide? And he said, I've not watched the guide yet. So then we're in a position where we just need to get to the basics first before we can go deeper. So I gave him a learning objective. For him, really useful, but I would have loved to go a little deeper with this guy, you know? So try to play 30 games minimum. Watch the guide on the website. There's so many people that really session that not watch the guide. I'm not calling out new members here, by the way. I'm also calling out older members that are just lazy and didn't watch the guide. We coaches will snip it out instantly because we know what type of questions. We just won't be able to go there. It's a little bit of an unfortunate way. We're going to get more money. If you're a new member, right, let's go back to new members. Sometimes you can coach, you can talk as well. If it's your first VOD review, just get a VOD of your main champion and bring that to the right? Because usually we have the most amount of champion maximum, therefore the most amount of focus that you have on the rest of the game. And then what we can do is we can get to the underlying root causes, the problems of your game. Our goal is to high level, what your strengths and what your weaknesses are, and then we want to give you learning objectives that will help you fix the problem. That's the goal. That's how you improve in League. That are better than you had before, and especially going to the game why you want to pick like an average game, like a quarter do that, then you can get to your underlying goals. Very, very straightforward. Oh, by the way, if you're watching it, you're still like okay, medium, do any of the coaches DM, or use the Ask a Mentor channel, guys, and we will be don't worry, don't be shy, we're here to help you. So, when to get a new review? To understand when to get a new review, we need to understand how improvement in League actually works. And this is where a lot of people think they know more than they actually do. So this is a bit of an ego check, guys. And I'm gonna really put this in perspective with my own League journey, because I am also improving and getting better. Yeah. Now, improvement in League works through different like habit creation and pattern recognition. I'm gonna explain you guys why that's exactly the case. Okay. So League is a game of habits. It's a game that your subconscious is playing. Why? Because there's so much information together that you can't really think about everything that you think. So it's like constantly like things, habits that you created in your game that are playing the game for you. There's only like 10% mark in your game that you can actually think about or like change. The rest is all habits. What are good examples of habits? Like your calories, your facing, how much energy you need to spend on your training patterns, or your weight management, or your predecessor. Some things that are all ingrained in your subconscious, and you can't all do that once. That's basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to make better habits so we can spend less time on other parts of the game, and we have this bank execute the bonus without. That's what we're trying to do. That's how we're trying to improve in League. Another way to improve is by pattern recognition. So by recognizing scenarios in such a way that you've got like a painful experience, or you know when you visualize how a scenario is, then you see the exact same pattern in the future. And then because you identify that pattern in the past and you know how to do it right now, you're going to change your course of behavior and get this behavior giving you the learning objective is by we're going to allow you to create habits, or we're going to allow you to start recognizing patterns in a different way in your gameplay. Now, habit creation is not easy, guys, okay? And first of all, it takes time. And it takes time, usually on average, it's 5 minutes. We don't have all the time. So we gotta be a little bit faster than the average Joe. So from what I found in my experience and also working with players, have a habit. And the reason why it's so important to spend this amount of time and really build the habit is because if you think like you can solve something in like a week or something like that, you think you already got it, and then you want to move on to something else, guess what happens? It's not actually a habit. It doesn't stick in your brain. And then 2 months later, we need to go to the exact same position with the exact same learning objective because you've not made it a habit just yet. So I really want you guys to understand that. You need to spend that time really diving into it. So that's why I recommend the session every 3 or 4 weeks. But sooner, what's going to happen is that you might have a little bit of that band like compared to like the doctor. Oh, my hand hurts. We give you painkillers, right? No, that's not a good example. We tell you to change your posture, okay? I got such a good example. Okay. Hold on with me. So, a really good example is this thing that we got right here. I'm going to show you guys here. So, this thing right here. I want to change my mind. Don't be like this. Use a device like this, where you strap it on and then the posture like this. But you kind of need to strap on for your posture to be correct. You need to strap on for hunchback like this, right? So for a longer period of time, your back correct your posture. So if you take off the strap too early, you will go straight back into hunchback. And then 2 months later, you figure out that your posture is still fucked. You need to go back and put on this thing again. And then we need to do this entire process all over. You just waste time. Alright? Fantastic. I came up with that one on the fly. Now I have to go for this one. Alright, so that's why we really recommend you to have a session every 3 to 4 months. What's gonna happen is you're gonna go towards a different problem, and then your old problem is gonna return because you haven't made it a habit just yet. So there's a few questions when it comes to that. So, what if I have completed my learning objective? What do I do then? Well, that's a really good question. What do you mean with complete your learning objective? Because completed may seem like, okay, a very normal learning objective, I've been to a lot of places, okay. I want you guys to ask yourself the question, what's the next useful thing every single time that you do it? Alright? That's a very practical. After reading successfully, Tim, I do this. So, right? Every because if we can now move on a few weeks, I can guarantee you that we're going to be straight back to 0. I see this a lot. And that's why we really got to nail this down and make it happen. So focus on it for 2 more weeks, make it 2 weeks. And what you'll find is that you're going to actually integrate into your business. Your consistency is also going to go high. Because what do we even mean with complete my learning objective? If you do this like in 50% of the deployments, that doesn't necessarily mean that we've completed it, right? Because I do it in 100% of my deployments, for example. So a lot of people think, oh, I already do this, I completed it, I can do this, or I get bored of this thing, I can do it. Actually, get this to really high level. So by, for example, working on this for another week, we can then bring it up to 70% of our deployments. By working on this for another week, we can bring it up to 80. And then by working on it for another week, we bring it up to 85. And then only it's maybe the time that we can stop that. We do this now is when we move on to the next. So, what do I do? We want to, once again, overtake habits. Focus on building that habit. Build a habit. We now have this foundation that we can work on with our newly found mental state. Build a new habit, and that's eventually how we're going to be able to improve, because we are not getting overwhelmed. Eventually climb again. So what do we do in between? First things first, you want to make sure that your habit is going to be created. So in your reviews, specifically target the thing that you got to learn. You can essentially use bold questions. Ask a question about your learning objective, in which that we go over. If you get your question answered in this case, and we can then help you refine building that habit. Or what we can do is you can ask a question and ask a mentor, or you watch VODs, live commentaries, or specific parts or fundamentals or guides on the website that cover that part of the habit. That's what I recommend. Don't overload your mental. Don't overload your brain. Your brains are lazy. You need to make it as simple as possible for them to improve. So that's what I recommend that you do in between training sessions. And don't be shy to ask questions if you have them. So this is a review, and this is one that is a little bit more quantitative. Experience that we can a game. So if your learning objective is vague or you don't understand how to improve it, for whatever reason, there can be many reasons. Right? Maybe it doesn't resonate with you. Maybe it's a good learning objective. It doesn't resonate with you. Send that specific code and toggle back up on the learning objective that you got, so that he can maybe provide it in a different angle, or can go deeper on that specific learner objective, or explain why it is important to do that, right? So if this is the case, right, or you don't understand how to actually send that coach a DM. This comes also to the other part, to improve the mind. Going to the gym and working on like that. So a really good example is if your laning, or like your wave management is like your deadlift, while your training is your deadlift. So you're going to give the learning objective to improve your deadlift by 10 kilograms in the next 3 weeks. That's like your goal. So if you don't understand how to actually do that, or how you even recognize that you're improving, that's also a good time to search it DM, and then you can help. So, good examples of bad reviews. Good examples of bad reviews. Now, I'm just gonna use a few from my own experience. I had a guy who, like I said, he had my game and he kept this is me. But it wasn't the best coaching session. Just as you know, also didn't what you guys have to. I have to baseline Jindra, get towards Circular Breaker, this chapter consistently. Early and neutral chapter. Classic stuff. Damn effective learning chapter, right? But it's just. I wish we could go deeper. So, big champs is that way we can actually go deeper on fundamental issues. Another example of a really bad review when the game is so a little bit of chaos. What do I mean with true chaos? When we lose. When there's so much going on that we don't know what's happening. And that sometimes just happens, right? Where you has destroyed a turret. It happens to me as well, where you can't calibrate it. More like that, you'll have to go specific.
You have slain an enemy.
How to go back.
An ally has been slain.
And
an enemy has been slain.
Unless this is like consistently happening in your games, like your efforts, then it's just bring that up. It doesn't figure out the design. This is an outlier game, so to say. Not really good. So I think outlier games. Outlier games in either direction, like Diaston, the super chaotic game, or a game that you're just getting random. Those are games that you ideally don't need to break on. Because it's in a position where that's not ideal. Because where you just get I get people coming to the session. I will end your review. When you start becoming negative or filthy, when I recognize any you're not playing the best, you're not trying to win. So I'm ending the review right there. And I might talk a little bit about your behavior, right? Or how we can improve that. But there's no use looking at your fault if you yeah, that's what we need to do. So, this is where I think this is by doing so if you're a longer term member or you are aware of what you're interested in, right? So remember what happens is that you first time bring like a more playing my you already have like gonna care about that. That is the highlight of CSGO as well. We're gonna be able to get really superior. And we're gonna be able to find and tackle it really well because I got 3 different basically experiments or like ways that I can view that thing. I can find consistent trends throughout the VODs, and it's gonna allow me to be a longer term member. I really recommend you do something like this, or bring like 2 VODs of the mid game. I feel like it's probably skip the line. I'm gonna look at mid game and your translation of leads, and this is gonna allow us to find what and well. So that's something that I generally really recommend. Instead of going wider, we're going to go deeper. And this is definitely I want to see more of this. This is but also for you.
With balanced steps.
Your team has destroyed an inhibitor.
Press on.
Destroyed a turret.